Ken Kreitzer, Cam Vets Media, Army football practice. Have a chance to talk to the offensive coordinator, and that's Cody Worley, coming off a huge win at Air Force. Cody, it's just it was a real scramble, a fight, but your offense came through 2 long drives. What was your overall assessment after you looked at the film?
No, I was really proud of how we found a way. I wasn't pleased with the start. We missed too many layups early on and it didn't transition to staying on the field. I thought we had some good play designs and good play calls. We didn't execute them, so therefore they weren't good. But once we settled in and really got that one drive under our belt, we overcame a penalty on second down that put us in the 2nd and 20. And then we were able to get a chunk and then hit Noah on the long touchdown pass on 3rd down. And then we responded. The first drive of the 4th quarter was huge, took 8 minutes off the clock and finished in the end zone. And then, obviously the 4th down, Peyton's adroit, their D lineman. I got to tip my hat to him. He's a tremendous player. He's on the ground scrambling and trips up Kale. Otherwise, I think he gets it with ease. But we would do it again, do it all over again. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way and they made a play. And then we went out there for the 1-minute drive and didn't flinch, made plays, had a great drive starter to Noah, and then the throw and catch from Kale to Brady to set up the field goal. Just a tremendous way to end the game. I wish we didn't have to end it that way, but we found a way in a close game to get over the hump. We've been in that situation before, and we found a way to win. So that was the most encouraging thing coming out of the game.
Well, in the first drive where you scored, Briggs Bartosh had the 35-yard run, and then Cale Hillham's got the 40-yard pass to Noah Short. How did the momentum feel? It was really a combination of running the ball well and passing the ball well.
Yeah, anytime you can get an explosive, and Briggs has showcased that throughout this season. And for him to get an explosive and then went right back to him, and then we get a 2nd down conversion run by Cale, but unfortunately we got a chop block penalty. So it sets us back at 2nd and 20 instead of 1st and 10. And for us to overcome that situation, that's really hard, especially against a defense like Air Force and their familiarity of what we do. To get a chunk back on 2nd down and then make that play that Cale made to Noah on 3rd and 13 was incredible. And just to have the moxie to make that throw and catch, given the coverage that we had, it certainly gave us momentum. Getting on the board first with a touchdown in these games are critical, and it carried over to getting points right before the half. I thought we had an opportunity to get 14, and unfortunately we got a penalty. Cale had a long run down to the 7. I think we would have had a 1st and goal at the 7-yard line, which typically yields touchdowns. But unfortunately, we had a penalty that set us off, and then I felt like we missed a couple there. Cale had back-to-back plays that he wants back, but we settled for the field goal. Dawson knocked it through before the half. So to have a 10-3 lead at halftime was huge. And then that, like I said, that first drive of the 4th quarter was critical.
Yeah, 13 plays, and you had a 10-yard pitch out, and a pass to Briggs Bartosh, and then Cale Hillham's got the 12-yard run, and they scored right after on a 10-yard run. How did you see Cale Hillham's maturity develop in that and demonstrate itself in that drive?
Yeah, overall performance, I was really pleased. There's several plays that he wants back. My biggest thing with him coming out of the game was, I used a basketball analogy, but he made several Steph Curry range threes, but he missed several layups. So, he's got to be consistent, and you got to hit your layups. And the plays that he's capable of making, that was showcased throughout the game, but he's got to be more consistent on the gimmies. So, I think overall his performance, I thought early on it took him a little bit to settle in with the emotions of the game, and understandably first starting an academy game on the road, but he settled in, gave us a chance to win, production was there, was gritty performance, tough, protected the football, made great decisions, and found a way to win, made a huge play to Brady at the end of the game, but without him we don't win the game.
Yeah, that pass to Brady Anderson with just less than a minute to play. It was 45 yards in the air. I was standing on that sideline, and the ball was coming right down, perfect spiral. Brady beat his man to catch it. What did it look like between when you call the play and it goes in and you see the play develop? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so based on how we started the drive, so we had 2 timeouts, and we utilized some base. The first play was a great drive starter to Noah. Then we pitched the ball to the perimeter and got out of bounds. So the drive starter was huge, gained 4 yards on the first down afterwards. So, and then we went fast and ran some under center just to stay on schedule, converted a 4th down, going quick. So it really, I had a feel that he felt like we were going to run our base offense and just try to get into field goal range. So I anticipated that he would sell out, bring pressure, and play cover 0. So called that, anticipating that, and we max protected it. Phenomenal protection up front. They brought 7. We had 7 to protect. And then as soon as I saw him play an in and out man, I knew we had a shot, either to Noah or to Brady. And Brady cooked the safety. And you cannot throw a better ball. I mean, it was incredible protection. Cannot throw a better ball in that situation. And for Brady to make that play after the Tulane game, for him to make that play in that clutch moment, I think it really got his confidence and got him over the hump that we can win in that situation and make those plays. But unbelievable, wanted to put them in that situation, and they made the plays. The players made them.
You mentioned the blocking. I just wanted to ask you about Brady Small. Sometimes I watch the center leading the team up to the line of scrimmage in a big game, big moment, and Brady is so up to those moments.
He is. He quarterbacked the entire game, and I tip my hat, one, to Coach Vitti and Coach Blackshear, but the 5 guys up front, you got to understand, we played 54 snaps, but that's multiplied by 5 at that position. They had 1 missed assignment. And Air Force is as calculus 6 in our games as it can be, with different looks, different pressures, different simulated pressures. So the way Brady handled that and quarterbacked it all game, I was really, really pleased with his overall performance. And just those guys up front, how they handled all the stems, all the movements, just really happy with how they handled it.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Joey Akano, you want to start us off?
Cody, congratulations on the win Saturday. First question for you. You guys showed a wrinkle that none of us have really ever seen before out of Army's offense. Coach Munkin called it the polecat formation, I believe, where you guys split the linemen out. And it looks like you guys showed a couple plays off of that. It looks like there's a lot you can do there with some screens and a bunch of other stuff. Talk a little bit about the decision to go to that formation. And, obviously that led to the deep ball to Noah in the end zone. And created a little bit of confusion clearly on the part of Air Force's D.
Yeah, no, typically in these games you're going to see some creativity, and especially with a bye week, just felt that it gives us an edge, and it's something that opponents are going to have to chase in the packages that we have out of it. But felt like that it would give us an edge and give us an advantage of something that they haven't seen, because there's a lot of familiarity. They have an academy game under their belt, and we're able to get a lot of things corrected with personnel and fits and certain things. So, just knew going in that we needed some wrinkles. And fortunately for us, if you take the penalty away, the other formation would have yielded another explosive that would have got us down, first and goal at the 7-yard line. So, the kids enjoyed it, and there's a lot that we can do out of it from week to week. But I was just really, really proud of the execution and how they handled the situation. But as you know, over the course of these games, you got to mix it up at times to keep those guys off balance, and I felt like that gave us a little bit of an edge.
And last question for you. You talked about this a little bit already, but Kale is such a fiery leader, and he seems really emotional out there. And you also talked a little bit about his inconsistency. So is that something you have to monitor, not only as the OC, but as the quarterback coach, kind of watching his warrior dial a little bit, making sure it's kind of where it needs to be for him to not get too jacked up and realize he's not a linebacker. He's got to have some touch too, right? So.
Yeah, no question. It's the fire and the moxie is something that defines him, and it really makes him who he is. I think, the more plays that he gets and the more starts under his belt and winning a game of that magnitude, I think he'll continue to get more confidence in just doing his job on every play and not trying to be a hero or not trying to make a perfect play. Just do your job. He knows he's got to be more consistent at times, and that's what I shared with him at halftime. I was like, if you had played this half better, we would be up 17-3, at least. So and I challenged him at halftime. We weren't satisfied with a 10-3 halftime lead. We left a lot out there, and I thought he played really well in the second half, really well, and gave us an opportunity. But he's starting to settle in, and I don't want to take any of that away from him. I monitor it certainly, but that kind of defines who he is as a competitor, and it gives our unit an edge. So when they see him respond that way in the way that he plays, it gives everybody else an edge. I just hope that he continues to work and get more consistent, and I think with the reps and the experience, he will.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Joe.
Ken McMillan?
Hey Cody, Ken McMillan, the record.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Good. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you, sir.
Late in the game, Air Force ties it up. It had eerie similarity to the Tulane game, and that was obviously a tough finish for you guys with Tulane. But it says a lot about your team responding well on its last drive in this game. Did you notice any character difference going into that last drive?
We stressed and put a lot of strain, after that Tulane finish of, just guys missing opportunities and maybe missing a fit, not doing their job as well, and really having the opportunity. If we talked about it, if we get that opportunity again, our response has to be there. And I had a great feeling. Sometimes there's some human factor, and for whatever reason, I had a really good feeling when we got the ball back. I wanted to end the game on our terms and get the first down on fourth down. But when we got the ball back, I felt really good about the initial script, and our guys have responded in that situation all year. And so, I knew we wouldn't flinch in that situation. We had scored multiple scenarios or set ourselves up in that situation before. And the guys responded, and I wanted to put them in positions to make plays, and fortunately they did. And, I was really pleased with how we responded coming out of the Tulane game and to put a drive together to end the game that way. I'm just really proud overall of the unit.
I read a note today in the game notes this week that Army now has 3 receivers who've had at least 10 catches this year. First time this has happened since 2013. What do you think this element does? And does it help you with your play calling?
I think anytime that you can create balance with 5 guys who can touch the football, I think that's critical. We're never going to be balanced from a run to pass. That's not balance in our offense. I think balance is if all 5 guys can affect the game in some way, somehow. So implementing different guys, I think, is critical. For a defense, whether it's a Samari Howard or a Noah Short or Briggs Bartosh or a back or a tight end or the receivers, I think implementing them in the scheme and really trusting them to do their job, and just really pleased with Brady to make that catch in that clutch situation. And Noah Short showed up and wanted to give him opportunities, and he's the type of guy that's got to show up in those situations, and he did, and I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, I wanted to expand on that. I mean, big fourth quarter by him. Obviously, teams are focusing on him, and maybe Air Force had his number early, but boy, he came through in the fourth quarter.
He did, and he's a gamer, and he's tough, and he cares, and he made the plays that we needed. We missed him a couple times where he got behind the defense and had opportunities, but I thought he played really well, and he's a big reason we won the football game.
Just 2 quick observations on the fourth down calls late in the game. And first one, Kale comes up just short. They reached out, but the refs ruled it short. And then, of course, the second time, another key situation, and he converts it. Was there any breakdown on that first time where he gets stopped, or can you just give Air Force credit?
Yeah, so Peyton's a droid. They're a defensive lineman. He's one of the best defensive linemen that we've played all year. I give him a lot of credit. He's on the ground, so PG cuts him. He scrambles on the ground and literally crawls and trips Kale. So he made a play, and I give him credit. If he's not able to do that, we easily get the first down. But he beat us, and he made a play, and wouldn't change the call. I thought we had a good call on. didn't execute it perfectly, and they had a guy made a play, and we didn't. Hopefully, we learned from that. We worked on some stepping over bag drills with Kale. So if we get in that situation again, he can pick his knees up and hopefully not get tripped by a guy on the ground. But you know, I agreed with the decision. You know, and we've got to, that's got to be who we are, and we got to line up and we've got to execute those. And unfortunately, we didn't get that one, but we did get two critical situations in the game that set up the field goal at the end. So pleased with how we responded. Not pleased with that play in particular, but wouldn't change it. Would do it again.
Was it the same play, by the way, the second time?
A little bit different scheme, but very similar.
Okay. Your thoughts on Temple and what they bring defensively?
Much improved football team across the board. You know, they hired really well. Casey Keeler is a tremendous coach. He's won everywhere he's been. You know, when I was at Kennesaw State, we played their Sam Houston team in the quarterfinals. They had a tremendous team, and we fell short. You know, I've got a lot of respect for him. He's played against Coach Monken when he was at Delaware, same scenario. So I know they'll be really well coached. Their defensive coordinator came from Rice. So, you know, he's got games under his belt. They played Navy really tough this year and really had a shot to win that game. Had a breakdown late, but defended them really well. And same thing last year. You know, Rice beat Navy last year, and I thought he did a really good job defending them. So he understands the scheme and getting his guys prepared. I know they will be, and they have a lot on the line as well. So we're going to get their best shot. They're a much improved football team defensively. They're big, they're long, they're athletic, and they're really well coached. So we got our work cut out for us as usual in this league, and we've got to continue to focus on us and doing our job, but they're going to present problems, that's for sure.
And last one, it's November. You're 8 games in. I asked Coach Monken this earlier, but do you coaches coach differently here in the second week of November than you would, say, in September or October?
You try not to. You try to be consistent, so consistency is part of your DNA with your unit. You know, I think the biggest thing from the challenge of winning a game in the magnitude that we won against Air Force is not having a hangover. And, you know, the challenge of overcoming that and not patting yourself on the back, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And consistency is huge. So we haven't changed anything. We had a normal Tuesday practice in full gear that went 28 periods, and we're back to work. So focus on us, focus on Temple, and really overcoming, you know, the Air Force game is behind us, and we got a critical test this week at home.
Is it fair to say it's refining now versus teaching earlier?
I think if you're not teaching or retraining daily as a coach, you're wrong. You know, especially with the youth and inexperience that we have. Yes, we've played 8 games, but, you know, we've got a lot of guys who have just played their 8th game and some that haven't played all 8. So I think every week is an opportunity, and every rep that they have in practice is still very critical, even this point in the season. You know, you want to bank reps consistently of guys doing their job and doing it correctly. So, you know, we don't take our foot off the gas pedal no matter what time of year it is or what it looks like. We're still training, we're still focused on fundamentals and details, and we're still aiming to get better every week. That's the goal.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Ken.
Sal, I see you're on. You got anything?
Yeah, Cody, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Congrats on the win over Air Force. Can you maybe go into what the inspiration for that lonesome polecat offense?
Yeah,
where it might have came from, and how the process.
Yeah, so, you know, anytime, you know, I was telling Kim, but going into these games, you know, there's so much familiarity, and with them already having an academy game under their belt against Navy, you know, I knew that we needed something fresh, something that they had not prepared for, and something that could give us an edge that we had a package out of. You know, so we carried 2 formations into the game, and both of them yielded results. Had we not had the penalty on the other one before the half, it would have set up a 1st and goal at the 7-yard line. So, you know, I think it really just gives our guys an opportunity to run some of the same plays that we're running, but out of a different presentation. And, you know, defenses have to chase that. They have no idea what we're going to run out of it or what we carry. So it's just another added wrinkle to what we hope is already a hard offense to prepare for in 3 days or even 2 weeks. But just knew going into the game we needed, a spark and needed something that could keep them off balance. So, and it paid off. Fortunately for us, it paid off.
Used at any point in your playing days or your coaching career?
My funny story, and I can't say the language. I'll kind of brief it for you. But when I was in high school, we played a team, Coosa, who came out and polecat the whole first half of the game, and we were really good on defense. And I just remember our defensive coordinator at halftime calling it chicken football. So he was.